This is the dance floor, and it may look different depending on what time of day it is, or where you are at in your life, and maybe that'll make more sense later. The structure of this talk is, I don't know if you're familiar with the hairstyle called a mullet, which traditionally, it was explained to me, is business in the front and party in the rear. And I don't know why I decided to inflict that on you, but it kept ringing like a bell in my head this whole weekend, just in case you were wondering what I was thinking about when I should have been meditating. All right. I'm trying to figure out how to make it not turn off, but there we go. So all joking aside for now, another thing that kept coming up for me this amazing, wonderful weekend is this beautiful prayer from the Pali Canon, from the ancient Theravada tradition. So with your leave, I will make a short prayer and a clumsy translation, and may it be for your edification. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Samanta Chakkavaleshu atra gachantu devata sadhamam munirajasa sunantu sagamokkadam Damasavana kalo avampadanta. I bow to the Blessed One, to the Worthy One, to the fully self-awakened One. From all the worlds and galaxies, may the Devas and all beings come here. May they listen to the true Dhamma of the King of Sages, the Buddha, that leads to joy and freedom. Now is the time, fortunate ones, to listen to this Dhamma. Thank you. That sounds like a big job. And how do we know I'm up to it? I'm not up to it. So, done. And the wisest thing I could do right now is shut my full mouth, but out of obedience to my teachers. And there are people in this room who are my teachers, and then there's all of you who are my teachers, and then there's this building and this practice and this great earth who are all my teachers. So it's a wonderful crowd to try to say something worthwhile. After all, remembering the historical Buddha for 40-ish days after his awakening experience didn't say a word. Who would he say it to after all? Remembering that wisdom is silence, the ground of all awareness, the mother of all. But in obedience to my teachers and inspired by the Dharma, I will speak. The Buddha was moved by compassion, was moved by availability. This is the thing about having some movement, having some opening in the heart, which, if awakening is anything at all, it can be seen as a progressive, ongoing dismantling of our dualistic, dualizing, objectifying structures that we build, moment by moment, day by day, second by second. more openness and availability, more relational availability. So the Buddha was moved to teach to his 5 former co-religionists out of great compassion. And now we're here. Dharma, any Dharma, is the movement of that compassion. All the way from, I'm noticing that the way you're using the mandolin slicer is maybe a little bit dangerous. You should grab the guard and not cut your thumb off. That's Dharma. All the way from that to, here's the pristine view handed down from the king of all sages for 2,600 years in an unbroken line of teachers and students to you. That's Dharma. Because functionally speaking, practically speaking, Dharma is anything that releases, relieves, reduces, mitigates, eliminates suffering. Therefore, it's medicinal, therapeutic in a way. Stephen Batchelor has a quote about this. He says, practically speaking, our practice of Dharma is our most skillful, wisest, and kindest response to the circumstances that we find ourselves in. That's it. What is the wisest, kindest, most skillful response that I could have to this circumstance? Which on the one hand makes it a little bit difficult to give a Dharma talk if someone has a really specific situation in their life that they would like some help with, as we all do. And thankfully, I'm not smart enough to know how to do that. And in fact, you are the only person who's smart enough to know how to do that. But maybe there's some general ways of looking at or holding or viewing or practicing with things that we can get from a Dharma talk. So anything I say to you is offered with a very tender heart. I hope and pray that I'm of service, and if I'm not, please leave it where you find it. It's not for you. Remembering everything is medicine and everything is poison according to your specific situation, diet, etc. So, my darling wife is working on the Long Beach Meditation YouTube. The clock is ticking, at which point she will resign from the board, which just seems like a terrible thing for me personally. But she's worked very diligently, and she would like to get back to some other things. But all day long she's working at home on the computer, and I say, oh, and I just kind of breeze through, I make something to eat, and I breeze through and I do this and that. I'm like, oh, is there something I could help you with? Like somebody's moving and you're sitting down having a piece of pizza, you got that? So, oh, is there something I could help you with? And she says, yes, and she hands me a list of videos. All these videos need new captions, which has just been incredible, because I get to go through and watch these brilliant Dharma talks between 25 and 35 minutes long of vintage Jokai, Tim, Jumpa, Brad, Rosa Maria, and you guys were killing it back in 2010. So thank you very much. Well, really, really well done. Outstanding. Wow. So what started this whole thing was the very first talk on the list was Tim, and he was quoting his teacher Son San, almost as kind of a preface to the Dharma talk. Don't attach to the words. Don't attach to the books. Don't attach to the teachings. But don't detach. Practice non-attachment. Non-attachment gives you the space to determine, is this of use? What about this? Oh, this won't work here, but this will. And it was such a beautiful way of putting that. And it made me reflect on the way that non-attachment comes from a place of trust. Non-attachment is the open hand, open heart, open eyes approach. So often, when something presents itself and clinging arises, we attach. This teaching, this situation, this anything, which maybe on some level we think like attachment is intimate, but it's not. We have objectified and reified this thing in relationship to me, and now it's solid. That is really not intimate. We've made ourselves an object and that an object. We went from quantum superposition, ungraspable, unfolding, constantly shifting to that. And similarly, detachment is cold and aversive. Generally speaking, something arises in our lives that we don't like, we don't care for, and we reify it the other way. And not only that, but that prevents me from actually being able to examine it. Maybe there is some room in there. Maybe there is something of value. Maybe somebody said something to me that I didn't care for, and instead of just forget it. Like, oh, well, is there anything here for me? Maybe there's something here for me. Even my own reaction. Wow, I got really hot really fast. This is really valuable information. Even just noticing the way I collapse or contract or fall apart. Non-attachment is most intimate, born of, grown in, and sustained by trust. Trust yourself. Trust your ability to feel your way through hand over hand in the dark. Trust your ability to notice how you are feeling right now. And then Rosa Maria's first talk about trust. And it was amazing to me that I came in thinking about Tim's talk, and then Rosa Maria gave me the commentary. Beautiful talk. Talking about what I walked away from it was make contact, touch deeply, your goals, your values, your interest, what is singing here for you. And then step back. So this is that movement, right? Not clinging to, not attaching, not pushing away, not detaching, but coming deeply into contact, making contact, and then stepping back. Remember in the suttas, especially the Anapanasati Sutta and the Satipatthana Sutta, the wonderful, beautiful Pali word that the Buddha has for that quality of practicing attention, of that flavor of awareness, is sati sampajana. Sati, attending to, meeting, being present to, sampajana, clearly knowing what it is, without critique, without judgment, setting aside hope and fear. So this sati sampajana is the perfect arena. It is the optimal condition. What is this? It's intimate enough to know what's arising, and spacious enough to make room for this ungraspable flow of arising that we and all things are. And then Brad's talk about the hindrances, my least favorite subject, I wonder why. I remember a long time ago, I was lucky enough to co-lead a beginning, like a 6-week at Long Beach Meditation with Jane Broadwell. And she gave me the printout and she said, and on day such and such we'll go over the hindrances. And I was like, are you kidding me? You're going to alienate an entire class of brand new meditators and talk about how hard meditation is? And I'm so glad I didn't say it. I'm glad, because it was brilliant and it was exactly what I needed. I needed to hear all about it. And at the root of that beautiful exposition of these hindrances, which is what a wonderful thing to hear about. This makes me think of the Buddha's, the First Noble Truth. Hey, it's hard sometimes. Instantly normalizes. Because it'd be wouldn't it be very fun to go sit and then have all this stuff come up and be like, well, what's this about? This is the worst. So it's so nice to be like, you're a human. It's going to hurt sometimes, and here's the ways you're going to tie yourself in knots. And not that it's a problem or a mistake or an accident. It's going to happen. And like Brad said, trust the practice. Trust yourself to meet what is arising with kindness, with sati sampajana. Oh, what is this? And I love that, Brad, you mentioned this ancient way. I just love, because it's so hard. It's easy to think of these 86 generations, 2,600 years of teachers and students who are obviously practicing a lot better than me. You see them in pictures and they're floating, or they have 25 arms, or they're just so relaxed all the time. I'm like, that's not how I am at all. So it's so nice to be, oh, you had hindrances too? Me and this guy, we know what it's like. So that's very nice. And then Jampa's excellent talk. And even the hindrances, like all phenomena, are just the endless fecundity, the endless luminous creativity of awareness, the play of awareness, if you will. And after all, everything presents itself to be known by you. Who will know this fear, this sadness, this terror, this pain, this anger, if not you? Who will know your sloth, your torpor, your hankering, if not you? It's your sacred burden. And, like Jampa said, all of this is just arising and empty. Can we be open and available to everything that arises, open and empty? All of these talks to me really kind of rang about trust and relying, trusting ourselves, trusting our practice, trusting our heart. And while I was listening to the talks, I was reminded of a story I hadn't heard in a very long time from my very first proper guru, robes and everything, when I was a teenager. And he was from Bengal. And in Bengal, they have this beautiful saying. And if any Bengali speakers in the room, I'm sorry about my accent. It's a little... She Ishwara Goya Tes Dia Boche. She Ishwara Goya Tes Dia Boche means, to my teacher so many years ago, it means that person who relies on God rests upon them like a bolster, like reclining on a soft bed. And, I'm not much of a theist these days. But in the vernacular and the Bengali, relaxing, laying back on God is, far too improper, far too familiar. That's not how you treat God. God is the big image in the temple and is offered worship. And this is not a person we have a familiar, intimate relationship with. But my teacher at the time was maybe trying to impart some of this trust, and even in outside of that context, it just made me think about, can you trust yourself? Can you rely on yourself? Can you trust in your awareness? And just rest. If you find yourself collapsing, if you find yourself contracting, if you find yourself when I find myself collapsing, when I find myself contracting, can I take the backward step and trust and just relax? One of the first things that the Buddha is said to have said to himself, he was still in that period of not teaching anyone yet. But this is in the Pali tradition, it's called an udana. This is something that the Buddha exclaimed to himself. Like, oh my gosh. And to me it talks about trust. Aparuta tesam amata sadwara jesotavantu pamunchatu sadham. And I can just see him in my mind's eye, seeing the morning star. Eyes open, hands open, breathing a free man for the first time in his life. Tasting the air for the first time in his life. And he says, the gates to the deathless are already open. Let those who have ears trust in this. Aparuta tesa mamata sadwara. The gates to the deathless are already open. The Buddha was not saying, I have opened the gates to the deathless. That actually wouldn't be as valuable as what he was really saying. It's always already been here. The gates to the deathless are already open. He didn't build them, he didn't find them, he didn't pick the lock. Here and now, he just simply discovered it for himself. In the second line, Je sotavantu pamunchatu sadham. Let those who have ears trust in this. The sotavantu is someone who can hear, who can pay attention, who can attend. Sati sampajana. It's here. Look, it's right there. Let them have sadham. Sadham is, we get that trust. It's often translated as faith, but I like saddha, sadham translated as trust, confidence. Let them rely on, let them relax into, let them trust in this. In what? In this awareness, this deathless, ungraspable awareness. Where is the person that wrote that note? It's certainly not me, but it's only me. I'm the only person who could do that. This me is constantly changing, but this awareness, this ungraspable, open availability to experience is always just there. And then on the subject of instructions from teachers, one of my teachers, after, and I tell this story a lot because it really meant, it was really something for me. After I made my big list of everything I've studied and everyone I've studied with and everywhere I've been, my kind of meditation CV, he just looked at me, and this is over Skype, he's in London. He just looks at me and he says, "You are very serious, I think." And I was like, oh hell yeah, he gets me. I am serious. I'm the real deal. I'm your guy. He just goes, "Do you dance?" I obviously have the wrong guy here. This will not work. And I was like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "You should dance more. And when you find yourself getting serious and contracting and collapsing, you should shake it off and just shake your body and breathe and just let it go." And I was like, oh, very nice. Now, about your very serious esoteric tantric instruction, he said, okay, very nice, I will talk to you in 3 months. And that was basically it. And reading a text recently, rereading it again, I came upon this verse that made me think of that very first instruction, which really has proven to be the most important instruction, which is a verse from the He Vajra Tantra, a very important text for some Buddhists. And the verse is very simple. It's the practitioner should always dance and sing. Full stop. And it just makes me think about dancing and singing. What is special about dancing and singing? It's relational. It's open. It's available. And when you're dancing, if you start to collapse and worry about what you look like when you're doing the funky chicken, you will start to not be able to move as freely. That freedom will get constrained and you can really feel it. And all of these beautiful forms that we have been so kindly and tenderly and generously brought into these ancient and beautiful and august traditions are the forms, they are these dances. And we have been invited to this dance floor, this beautiful dance floor. And we even got instruction, hold your hands like this and put your feet like that. And every dance has forms, whether it's, a waltz is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or it's, it's just a jump to the left. You know the rest. So, but all of these dances are forms, are structures, are movements of loving compassion, are movements of support that we can begin to learn to trust ourselves. And that's every moment. Whether we become a great master like a Herbie Hancock or a Chick Corea, and like Charlie Parker said, master our instrument, master the music, and just dance, just play. Or whether just in our own lives, the next time I catch myself collapsing, and I just really briefly, my last point, something I noticed about all my sit today was I had it in my head that dancing, that shaking it off and letting it go, meant I would do this independent of conditions arising. And actually that's not how it works. If your foot hurts, you dance with a hurt foot. If it's hot outside, you dance in the heat. If you're tangled up and contracted and constricted inside, that's how you dance. And however you dance, can you bring yourself into that sati sampajana, into that tender, intimate, free of judgment, critique, clearly knowing what is arising. Oh, I'm dancing like this because my knee hurts. This is my hurt knee dance. So my prayer for you today and every day is that you dance and that you sing the song of your life. You are the only person who can sing it. You and I will be 3 pounds of bones and ash, or if we're buried, whatever that looks like. It would be a shame if your song did not sound on the only planet where it could possibly sound. I thank you very kindly for your attention and your grace. And if I said anything that was not useful, please leave it where you found it. And if I said anything that was useful, it's yours as long as you want it. May you be happy.